listen up, open your ears, because this episode is going to be invaluable in understanding how to tangibly magnetize people into your world through this tool that I call a brand story. The reason why it's so important to understand your ideal audience through the lens of being a multidimensional brand storyteller is that your brand story is the vehicle that helps this audience feel seen, heard, and understood. From the day you were born until today, what has been the trajectory of your life? What has been the biggest highlights that you've had, the biggest breakthroughs that have led you to be where you are today? The job that you've chosen, the partner that you've chosen, the life that you've chosen, and how you're living it, for better or for worse, is not an accident. It is a byproduct of your story, consciously or unconsciously. So one of the most potent things that you can do for yourself is get really conscious about what got you here.
Welcome to It's Not What You Think, the podcast that takes you on a transformative journey to rewrite your story of greatness and reawaken your soul's purpose. I'm your host, Celine DaCosta, a subconscious mind expert, master coach, and believer in the limitless power and magic that lives within all of us. My intention in this podcast is to propel you into your next level of success so that you are free to create the life that your heart most desires. Through deep, actionable insights, personal stories, and world-class guests, I'll provide you with the tools, strategies, and resources you need to unlock the fullest expression of who you're meant to be in this lifetime, so that you can consciously design a reality that is beyond what you could have ever dreamed of. Join me on this journey to personal growth and evolution, and let's live our lives in accordance with our highest soul's calling. This podcast is your weekly check-in to help this path become more simple, obtainable, and fun. Thank you for tuning in today, and now let's dive in.
Hello, and welcome. Today, we are diving into a topic that is very near and dear to my heart and part of my soul's calling, which is the art of creating a multi-dimensional brand story. Ooh. Now, what does that mean? So let's start by defining what a brand story is, at least in the context of how I'm defining it in the conversation that we're going to have in this podcast. When I think about a brand story, the name itself it gives already a sense of clarity, which is the story of your brand. Your brand being the personality of your business. It is the front-facing energy that your business interacts with when it comes to your customers, when it comes to people who get to know you. And the way that I teach business, and I have a whole program that covers this called Business by Soul, which, as the name suggests, is really around your business is this entity. It's an entity. And the way I see business is it is a vessel through which your soul can express its service. That's how I see business. And when we create a business, we are taking an expression of our soul and we're infusing it into this entity that is going to be of service to humanity. And that looks like you offer service, you offer a product, there's something that you offer in exchange to the thing that we call money. And when you offer that product or service to the world, there is someone on the other end that's receiving the product or service, and they are going to make use of this product and or service in a way that is ideally going to be of value to them, of so much value to them that the exchange, the money that they paid for it, is going to be a no-brainer. That's the context through which I see business through. So through that, then we look at the brand. The brand is the personality. It's the animus. It's what actually animates this entity. If you think of a business as a person, as an entity, as this thing that is alive, then the brand is the personality. It's the soul of the business. It is the way the business thinks. It's the way the business feels. It's the way the business acts. So when we look at things that I teach in my brand story courses, such as defining your why, knowing what your vision is, knowing what your values are, what is that deeper, what matters to you in the business, what is the mission of the business, why does the business even exist? These deeper existential questions around the business are what the brand answers. And when the brand, the personality of the business starts to interact with people with colleagues, with on the internet, like it starts to move around, then people that are interfacing with this brand are going to get a certain kind of impression around what the brand is. Oh, this brand is really innovative and creative and fun, or this brand is really serious and family oriented and efficiency driven. You start to get a certain impression, the same way when someone walks into a room and they have a certain aura about them. There's a certain way you can immediately infer certain information about that person walking to that room. It's the same thing when your business presents itself, whether in the flesh, brick and mortar, or online. You can tell a lot about that business and how it is and how it runs, and whether it's for you, by interfacing with the brand. So that's what I define a brand is. Now, a brand story is how this brand came to be. And this is where the ooey gooey emotional, like deep heart connection, that the loyalty, the customer loyalty, the depth, the connection that we feel to businesses over years and years and years, or certain brands that we feel deeply connected with, no matter how often they change. That is what the brand story does. It is the story of the business coming into being, or if it's a personal brand, it's the story of the person coming into being. What is their story? Who are they? What made them who they are today? What journey did this person have to embark on, or this business have to embark on, to get to the point where it is today? And so the reason why brand storytelling is so deeply potent is because it taps into what is one of the most effective marketing tools on the planet, and has been since cave people times, which is storytelling. We live in a world today, very fast-paced digital world, where there is all these algorithms, all these trends, all these funnels and algorithm hacks, and quick ways to make six figures and millions of dollars. Like, the internet is freaking saturated with all these ways of selling, of presenting ourselves, of growing our business. But I'm going to be honest with you. In my 8+ years of doing this work and being deeply dedicated to this work, growing my business this way, helping clients grow their business in this way, I have not seen a more potent tool in business, and by extension branding, than storytelling. And I could sit here and spew a lot of facts about storytelling, because what I'm about to share with you has all been scientifically backed to the max. I could share with you that stories have been proven to be 22 times more memorable than facts. I could share with you that brain scans have been done of watching people that when they're engaged in a good story, their brains light up and they start to release chemicals in their body, such as dopamine, oxytocin, that are feel-good chemicals that increase their levels of empathy, their sense of connection, their sense of understanding deepens. I can share with you that, the Harvard Business Review has done a really in-depth study where they discovered that 95% of purchasing decisions are made on emotion and 5% are made on logic. And storytelling is what drives emotional responses, reactions. There are so many facts that I could share with you around the biological potency, a biological, emotional, and energetic potency that storytelling holds on us, because it is the oldest form of communication. It is as human as you can get. To tell a good story is the most human thing that we can possibly do. We have been sitting around fires since the beginning of time, transmitting information, sharing important lessons and stories that lasted for thousands of years through the art of storytelling. So, storytelling in and of itself, alongside change, is one of what I believe the most invaluable skill sets you could ever gift yourself with in this lifetime. There's a proverb that goes, "Those who tell the stories rule the world." Those who tell the stories have the power to influence people's emotions, which then influence their decisions. Those who tell the stories are the ones who are connecting people to, they're the ones who are transferring information in a way that data and facts alone simply cannot do. And so in my work, I started there's a lot of things that I'm doing in my business, in the sense that I teach quite a few things. I teach about personal transformation. I teach around changing your money mindset. I change. I change. I teach. I teach brand storytelling. There's quite a few things that I support people with in my line of work. That being said, brand story is my brand and butter, and has been my brand and butter, because of the profound impact that I have witnessed really getting embodying your brand story and applying it into your life and business can have on your life is absolutely immeasurable. And I don't say that lightly, without if you go on my website and you look at the testimonials, you're going to see it for yourself. But through this mastery of multidimensional brand storytelling, which is what we're going to be covering in today's podcast, I have seen my clients beyond explode their business. I have seen my clients grow from just a few thousand followers on social media to the tens and hundreds of thousands. I have seen them scale from 6 figures to 7 figures in just a matter of months. I have seen them triple, 10x their rates. I have seen them double, triple their business. I have seen them live happier lives, have more confidence in themselves, know how to express themselves with more confidence, be on a stage, on a Tony Robbins stage in front of 10,000 people sharing their story. Like, the ability to be able to speak freely and openly about your story, and to be able to tie it to some kind of meaning, which in the context of what we're talking about today would be your service or your business or whatever it is that you're looking to promote and put out there in the world. It is such an invaluable skill, because it is the ability to be authentic, to express yourself to your fullest capacity, be seen for it. And not only that, but to drive results, to drive someone to listen to what you have to say, to engage with you, with your energy, and then take an action, which might look like purchasing that product, signing up for that service, donating to that Kickstarter. Because we're not, I'm talking about in the context of business, but if you're listening to this and you have a personal brand, and you're looking to grow your personal brand, because maybe you're a model and maybe you're looking to book a gig, maybe you do have a brick and mortar business and you're looking to get more people in through your door, or maybe you're a coach and you're looking to get more people into your programs, or have your dream clients knock on your door. Like, listen up, open your ears, because this episode is going to be invaluable in understanding how to tangibly magnetize people into your world through this tool that I call a brand story. And when I'm speaking into multidimensionality, I am speaking into the ability, through telling your story, to be operating on different levels of reality, so that you are changing reality through the act of you telling a story from a place of embodiment and alignment. And what I mean by that is that you could be telling a story, and in that moment, you're telling a story on a webinar with the intention of facilitating an emotional connection with people, so that they will feel connected to your offer, and if it's the right fit, they will buy your offer. But at the same time, you can be empowering yourself and healing certain aspects of you through telling a story that you haven't told before, through telling it in a way that is empowering to you. At the same time, you could be healing someone else's life by them listening to you and feeling seen and feeling heard and feeling like they're not alone in their own story. And at the same time, you could be planting a seed for that story to be something that opens up the door to another opportunity in your life. So it's about you showing up present, aligned, embodied, and sharing a brand story from your heart and soul. And when you share it from that level of alignment, it becomes more than a script on a piece of paper. It becomes a live transmission containing important data and soul seeds that will be received by people who will be activated either in that moment or sometime in the future when they reflect back or remember that story, when the time is right for them to have the breakthrough, the insight. And to be able to, one story can carry so much power to affect short-term change, to give you the result that you want more tangibly, tactably, which is, buy this course, sign up for this thing, whatever that tangible thing is. But what I'm alluding to is that when done right, your brand storytelling can really be a healing modality for you, for someone else, for the collective. And it can influence people in ways that are way, 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 way deeper than them just buying a program at the end of a masterclass. That's what I'm talking about. And by the end of this episode, this should hopefully be a little bit more clear. Now, in this episode, I'm going to share with you some key insights from my work of what it actually takes to create a powerful, compelling brand story that works multidimensionally and is really reaching into the hearts and souls of the right people with the right message and with the right intention that comes from you, because that's really the magic sauce, is the right message delivered in the right energy to the right people. That is your absolute recipe for what we call that soulmate client who just can't wait to like, who can hear that one message from you and they know like you're the right person to work with them. They know that like it's you. Or if it's not, if not a services based business, it's like, this is a product, this is what I believe in, I'm aligned to this company, I'm aligned to this mission, I want to buy from this. Now I'm going to just read you an Instagram caption that I wrote a couple years ago that people still refer back to, that really touched a lot of people, and I think encapsulates what it is that I want to be sharing with you in today's episode. So here it is. Before understanding what a brand story is, it's important to get clear on what it is not. Your brand story is not linear. It's not meant to be linear. That's why it feels challenging to find a strategic formula for something that, by nature, is meant to be multidimensional. By definition, a brand story is the narrative of the emotions and facts created by your brand. It's how you make people feel through the things that you do and say consistently. It's the energy that your audience picks up on when they're in your space, whether physical or virtual. They can't quite put their finger on why they feel like they know, trust, and like you, but they do because of the way in which you carry yourself. A compelling and magnetic brand story isn't something you can think your way into. It's something you create by becoming. So this captures what I want to transmit to you in today's episode. When I started to define branding, I had a definition that was a bit outside of the box of a dictionary. The way that I define branding is bridging the gap between where you are now and where you want to be out loud. And when I think about brand storytelling, it's really that. It's how do you express yourself authentically, and you show people who you are, who you're becoming, and your story is essentially the bridge to that gap, and you're doing this all out loud. So the brand story is really around as I mentioned, it's the narrative, it's the story of the emotions and the facts that your brand creates. Who you are, why you're here, what's the point of everything you've done, what's your mission, what has taken you to the place where you are now, that has you selling this offer successfully, that has you sharing this message or selling this product. Like, why this product out of everything you could have started a business on? Why e-commerce? Why coaching? Why selling socks? Why? You got there for a reason. There's something in your story that is encoded in your story that has got you to where you want to be. So what I'm going to walk you through now are 3 core steps to have in place when you are creating that multidimensional brand story. And now, full caveat, this is less than an hour episode. And as much as I'd love to, if I were to walk you through the step-by-step process of creating the brand story, like in detail, that would obviously be an entire course. So this is really a high level taster that will get you started. If you're listening to this and you're either wanting to refresh, elevate, or haven't even started given much thought to your brand story, this is perfect, because this is going to give you the building blocks for you to contemplate and start doing this work. And then if you are inspired, then you can go and either do my School of Story course, or you can do personal one-on-one work with me. I'll be happy to help you through that more in-depth journey. But for those of you who just want to get that first foundational steps, listen up. So the first step in when you're considering creating a powerful brand story is getting clear on both your personal and professional identity. So similar to a person, a brand has, like a business has a personality, and that's what the brand is. And in that vein, it's really important, if you're going to have a potent brand and if you're going to tell a powerful brand story, you need to know what the brand stands for. You need to understand its values, its goals, and the bigger why. And when I work with my clients, one of the first things that we do is we, number one, like map out their entire story. Have you ever sat down and just wrote out your entire story from beginning to end? It's such a simple, potent exercise that most people haven't done, which is just literally like from the day you were born until today, what has been the trajectory of your life? What has been the biggest highlights that you've had, the biggest breakthroughs that have led you to be where you are today? And what I usually have them do is I have them go through the story arc, which is really understanding their background, where they're from, where they grew up, what happened in their younger years. I have them go through what are the biggest issues, the biggest problems that they encountered as they were growing up. Then what are the biggest breakthroughs and like light bulb moments, like the breakdowns and breakthroughs. Like, what are the moments in life where shit really hit the wall and you had to become someone else? And then I walk them through their growth, their evolution, like who they became as a result, those breakdown and breakthroughs, and what are the biggest insights, what are the biggest lessons that they have to teach today. This whole process is like an extremely healing alchemical process of just going through your story and mapping out your own hero's journey, which is just the story of you becoming your badass self. And that in itself is an incredibly healing process, because you get to see from a bird's eye perspective the ways that the entire story of your life has perfectly led you to where you are today, doing what you do. And whether that influenced you consciously or subconsciously, it's really important to become aware of the ways that your stories, your traumas, your wins, and everything in between has gotten you to the point in your life where you are living the life you're living today. And if you're a business owner, where you have the business that you have today, because it was not an accident. The job that you've chosen, the partner that you've chosen, the life that you've chosen, and how you're living it, for better or for worse, is not an accident. It is a byproduct of your story, consciously or unconsciously. So one of the most potent things that you can do for yourself is get really conscious about what got you here. And that's one of the first things that we do. And some people think, oh, well, but I have a product and it's got nothing to do with me. I'm not the face of my brand. I don't have a personal brand. I can tell you it doesn't matter, because if you are the founder of your company, or if you are a significant decision maker in your company and your brain has had an influence in the creation of this company, then you've got something to do with it. Whether you have an anonymous sock company or you're the personal brand of a coaching business, same. You got there for a reason. You decided to choose your own brand and be the face of it for a reason. You decided to go for socks instead of, I don't know, bags for a reason. So we need to figure out what that reason is and get really, really clear on what that story is. And then we take it a step beyond. And when I do this work with clients, it's really identifying what's the deeper why. Why do you do what you do? And what is the vision that you have? Like, what is that soul's vision that you have for where you're going in your business? Like, where are you going with this? Why do you need to tell a story? What's this brand doing? Like, what is it propagating? What is it promoting? Think about these really big brands that exist in the world, like Apple, Virgin, and what else? Google, right? They all have these brands. Like Apple is all about creativity, innovation, unleashing your creative genius. It's about aesthetics. It's about beauty. Like Apple has a mission. It has a really strong mission to activate people's geniuses, to make it really easy for them to create really beautiful things in really beautiful ways. It's a really clear mission, and the products that they create and the story that they tell continues to contribute to that mission. So there needs to be a mission, there needs to be a vision. And not only that, there needs to be a set of values that you are clear on as to why you're doing what you're doing, what matters to you. For something like Apple, the values would be innovation, it would be courage, it would be, efficiency. No, beauty would be another value that would definitely be aligned with Apple. And it really creates the identity the same way that when you just tune in to Apple or Google, you can feel the difference. It's the brand, it's the story that they're telling you that gives them a different identity. And yes, even though these companies are ginormous, and maybe that's not, you listening to this, the founder story has a lot to do with how the company came to be what it came to be. So figure out what that is. That's step one. It's creating that personal and professional identity, getting super clear on that, what that is, and how that informs your brand. Step number two is, once you figured yourself out, what is your story, your why, your vision, your values, like what is happening in your world that is influencing this brand, that is interfacing with people externally. Figure out, know thyself, what's going on in here. Now it's time to understand the people that you're interfacing with. And the second step is really about creating a deep understanding of your ideal audience. Who is it that you're influencing? Who is it that whose lives do you want to touch? And what I encourage in this work is to look at people as individuals, not just as customers or numbers on a screen, which is what so often ends up happening with people as they're growing businesses, and they just start to see like the client avatar, the lead. It's just like we use all these impersonal names to describe what is essentially a tribe of human beings. And what I have found is that when you have a business, that business is in service to what I refer to a soul service group. There's a group of souls that you are in service to, and the business serves this group of souls. Now, there's tons of material out there around how to identify your ideal audience avatar, like fill out this worksheet and figure out their likes and their pain points and what they need and why they need it. There's so much material that you're going to find on that. I personally find it to be quite exhausting. And I chuck this one out of the window, even as I do my own branding work. What I found has been really helpful to me is to tune into the group of people that I love to serve and feel their energy and just really see them as individuals. And you will find that when you start doing this intuitively, when you start doing it from your heart, it's going to generate different answers than if you just like try to think your way into filling some kind of worksheet that some marketing bro gave you so that you can figure out who your target, who your niche is. I love strategy. I love structure. But I do feel that many ways that we've started to do business have lost the soul, and we've gotten disconnected from the deeper reason why we're doing this. I'm a big fan of conscious capitalism, and the way I understand it, or the way that I like to navigate it in my reality, is really seeing, again, business is a vehicle of service through which I get to express my dharma, my purpose, my soul expression in service to the collective and the planet. And also, as a business with a certain amount of resources, and as me, an individual with certain interests in my life, I can't be everything to everyone. It's not sustainable to me. It's not sustainable to the business. And it's also not a smart business move. Strategically speaking, more tactically speaking, it's not a great way to do business until you get to the point where you're, one of the Tony Robbinses or Oprahs to the world. I found that it's quite difficult to be everything to everybody. And so what I have found really helps me to create a business that has a strong brand, and that brand has a strong audience that follows that brand and buys from that brand, therefore giving life to the business, is to get clear on who is my ideal audience, who's my soul service group, and speak to them. Like, let my story be bow and arrowed to them. Like, they are the ones that are receiving the story that I have to say. And the reason why that's important is because there's 1,000 ways we could tell a story. You could tell the same exact story to a 5-year-old, to your mom, to your best friend, and that story would have to come out differently based on the relationship you have with that person's cognitive, spiritual skills, their ability to receive the story. You're not going to tell, a funny sex story to your 5-year-old cousin, but you will tell it to your best friend, and you might tell a much more cleaned up, dialed down version to your mother. So you can tell the same story many different ways. And that's why it's so important when you in your brand story is we need to get clear on whose lives you most want this brand to touch. And without getting into the semantics of it, as this is something that I teach in, again, all my programs, because it's so important in my branding, my business by soul, and my branding programs. This is just such a cornerstone, because it is such an important part of, like, you can't have a brand without people receiving the brand. It's a two-way conversation. It's not a one-way thing. And so if you have like a brand that is only doing it's only talking about you, your identity, your values, your mission, everything you are and everything you know yourself to be, that's amazing for your self-discovery journey, but it falls flat if you're trying to transfer this information and get someone else to engage with you. It has to be a two-way communication. The same way that if you're having a conversation with somebody and all you do is talk about yourself, that person's not going to be engaged. If you want someone to be engaged with you, you got to ask them questions. You got to speak to their experience. You got to speak to them and their interests. That's how you get that engagement piece. That's why step 2 is so fundamental. And that's the part where, you're going to need to ask some questions. The way that I like to see it is, what is this person? Who is this person that I want to speak to? What keeps them up at night? Like, what are the biggest pain points, the biggest struggles that they're facing in their day-to-day life? What do they love? What's something that excites them, like really lights them up? What are their dreams? What are their visions? What's that thing that they get so excited about that they can just sit in front of their computer? They can just be in flow and not pee for hours at a time because they're so freaking in love with what they're doing. And what is it that they're really needing? Like, what is it that they need support with? And how can I or another business meet those needs for them? Like, how can I fulfill those needs in a way that aligns with my zone of genius? These are all questions that I ask when I'm going through the second step of understanding my ideal audience. When I tune into my ideal audience, for example, I don't have like an age, I don't have a gender, I don't have these strict psychographics that I operate under when it comes to my work. There is a feeling of the kind of person that I reach. It's the chain breakers. It's the people who have a really big heart. It's the empaths and the multidimensional sensitive beings of the world who really truly care about making a change in the world and care about having a voice and really want to like enjoy their life and create something epic and have tons of impact in their business. And they want to know that they can have all of it and they can do it from a happy, relaxed place of living. So that could be my 60 plus year old client who has been executive in corporate for 35 years, or it can be my 25-year-old client who is in the process of growing her coaching business and wanting to start a family. So everything in between, so long as the depths of the soul of this person is being touched, and there's a soul service group through which I speak to that is going to resonate with what I say and how I say it. So the reason why it's so important to understand your ideal audience through the lens of being a multidimensional brand storyteller is that your brand story is the vehicle that helps this audience feel seen, heard, and understood. I want that to land for you. Your brand story is a vehicle that helps your ideal audience feel seen, heard, and understood, sometimes for the first time in their lives. So remember what I talked about earlier in this episode, multidimensionality. Your brand story, step one, is a vehicle for you to see yourself, for you to understand yourself, for you to heal yourself and see how incredible you are, and all the gifts and all the ways that life has led you to the point today where you get to be in this position where you're making a change, where you're telling a story, where you're growing a business. It's also a vehicle to help you identify the places in your life, in your story, where you haven't healed yet, and to start the process of healing, to start the process of overcoming yourself in that way. So it's a really powerful vehicle for personal development, personal healing, so you can become a stronger, more developed, more evolved version of yourself who is standing strongly in the pillar of you and in your self-expression, putting yourself out there for people to see. But the second part of this puzzle is, who are you putting yourself out there for? If you can't be everything to everyone, who do you want to reach? And so often when I work with clients, it's a very common theme that they want to reach previous versions of themselves. Not always, but many times it's, my client who is in, their late 30s and a high performance coach helping women grow their business and create more liveliness, to have more time in their life. Because when she was growing up, she didn't have that, because she was burning out all the time, because she was flooded, because she was overwhelmed, because she had eating disorders. I have another client, speaking of eating disorders, who had eating disorders her entire teenagehood, her entire young adulthood, and she healed through that. And she found a more sustainable way of being healthy. And now she's a wellness practitioner with with her like beautiful family and the love of her life, and living in an extremely healthy body. And now she's teaching women to do that for themselves as well, instead of taking it out on themselves. So many times our story leads us to the place where we start a business where we want to give support to a problem that we faced in the past that we've overcome, a former version of ourselves. Or an example is, a client who has a brother, and she watched her brother be like socially awkward and really struggle with dating her entire life, and just seeing his pain. Like, she became a dating coach for men. So again, it doesn't have to be personally your story, but there is some kind of problem. If you're a business owner, there's some kind of problem that you encountered in your life that you feel passionate enough to dedicate your energy, your attention to solving for other people. So it's really important to understand, who are those other people, and there's something in your story that you get to share with them that is going to help them feel like someone finally sees them, like someone finally hears them, someone finally understands that. And not only that, someone finally cared enough to create a solution to their problem. And that's how you can really shine in your brand storytelling, because it's not only telling, but you're showing people, you are showing them the way that you see and understand them, and you're showing them that you have a solution to the thing that they've been struggling with for years, if not a lifetime. They have a problem, you have a solution. But it's not just that, it's not enough. Have you ever met someone who said they could solve your problem, and you just have an ick factor? You're like, ew, this person doesn't feel authentic to me. This person doesn't feel genuine. I know they can solve my problem, and maybe they have testimonials, maybe they have a track record, but I don't feel connected to this person, and I don't trust them. Or a company, maybe you've seen maybe you have an issue where you need, I don't know, You need a vacuum cleaner that just vacuums the house for you, and you see an ad and you go on the sales page for this vacuum cleaner that is promising you everything that you need, but you're like, this sales page feels weird, this feels sketchy, it feels like a marketing scam. I don't know, I just get a really weird feeling from this website. And then you click off because the brand, or the business rather, the business could solve your problem. You have a problem, they have a solution, but you don't feel like you trust them. You don't feel like they see you. You don't feel understood by this business. You don't feel an emotional connection. And therefore, even though they can technically solve your problem, you're not going to go to them because you don't feel trust. You don't like them, you don't trust them, and you don't know them. And brand storytelling really bridges this gap for people. And I like to think that, there's many ways that people do this brand storytelling. That's why I'm specifically referring to multidimensional storytelling, because there is healing in this. There is service in this. There's heart, there's soul in what I'm talking about. There's people that can just promise you the solution and then give you the illusion that they understand you through their words. But that's not what we're talking about here. Here we're talking about truly stepping into empathic marketing, getting into your ideal audience's shoes, understanding who they are, and then directing your story to them the same way that you can tell the funky sex story with like the raunchy version to your best friend, but with your mom, you need to give her a different context for her to really understand the message of what you're saying behind that story. What is the story, once you get clear on it within yourself, what is the story that you want to transfer over to someone who really needs a solution to the problem that they're having, and you have the solution? But it's not just about the solution, it's about being like, hey, I have a solution and I see you and I care about you, and I want you to come into my world. I'm going to solve this and I get it. I really get you on a deeper level. That is the stuff of loyal clientele that keeps coming back to you again and again and again. That is the stuff of clients who become lifelong friends after, because they can feel you truly care about them. That is the stuff of clients who keep buying more and more things from you. That is the stuff of people who stick around in your world, even if they're not buying. And whenever you have a new offer, they're on it, they're on top of it. They will purchase whatever it is that you have because they just want proximity to you. They just want to work with you. That is what creates these epic brands. And of course, there's also product strategy. There's different elements here. It's not just this. There is, looking at the product, looking at the demand in the market, looking at like there's more technical strategic things that we can get into. But this is the soul of it. It's the intangible, immeasurable part of building a really compelling brand story that people feel so deeply connected to. It is a really healing experience to feel seen by a brand and to feel loyalty and to feel safe that this brand, this business has got you and they get you, and they're gonna, if there's any issues, they're gonna make it right, and that you can build a long-term relationship with this thing that is a business, whether it's a faceless business or whether it's a business that's tied to someone's face. Doesn't matter. It's still the same. And that brings me to the third step, which I brought up in step number 1, but this is, it deserves its own step because it is about being unapologetic about the brand's mission and values. So it's really about matching your words with your actions. And the difference between step 1 and this step is step 1 is about know thyself, know your identity, your story, what you stand for, why you stand for it, what are the values, like know that within yourself, so that you carry that integrity and that embodiment of your brand and what it is and who it's for and why you're doing what you're doing within yourself, because that's the energetic piece. You magnetize by being. You can't think your way. You can't read off of a sheet. Like, people can feel you. When someone's confident, it can be felt. It cannot be faked. It can be felt. So if you know your professional and personal identity and how it relates to your brand, that's something that's inside you and no one can take away once that's been embodied and clicked in. Step 2 is really about knowing the person that you're communicating to. It's a two-way conversation. Where is this message landing? Who is being told the story? Who are they? Why do they matter to you? And what is it that they really, what's the context through which the story needs to be shared for them to really receive you and to feel seen and understood? The byproduct of that is that they know you, they like you, they trust you. If you have a solution to their problem, they're going to buy from you. You can bet on that. And then the third step is really around becoming the brand. And a brand is bigger than your personal story and your professional story. It's bigger than the audience. It's about you stand for something. You have a mission that you stand behind. And again, the greatest brands that you see out there, the people who are really creating massive success for themselves, it's not just their face. If it's like someone's, personal brand, or if it's something like Apple, it's not just a computer, it's not just a phone, it's a mission, it's a way of being. Like they are supporting a bigger collective mission. And it's important to understand, like, what is that for you? What is it that you're here to do on a bigger level? And are you doing it? Because when I teach brand story as well, I help clients create these incredible potent brand stories and to heal themselves. And we do the energetic work and the subconscious reprogramming work to really get them to be an embodiment of their brand story from the inside out, and to really get that deep felt understanding of who their audience is. But the next step is that if you need to have a mission, and then there's a certain point where your brand story can only carry the weight that your actions carry. And so this is where the brand story needs to plunk, it needs to land back into, it needs to anchor back into the business that you have, the entity, and give it life. Because whatever story that you're telling around what you do, why you do it, and why it matters to you needs to be backed up. Your mission and your values need to be backed up by how you are actually running the business and what you're doing and how you're showing up. And this is a conversation also about integrity and authenticity, because we can speak directly to someone's heart and you can have the gift to do that. But then you need to turn around and fulfill on this bigger mission and this value. Like, hey, I am here to help you heal your heart. And an example, you're a relationship coach, and your bigger mission is to help people heal their hearts through their own self-sovereignty. Like, that could be your bigger mission. And your values are love, freedom, and connection. And now that you are telling a story, a really compelling story about you and how you learned this in your life, and how you understand that this is such an important part of like creating true love, now you have this really big mission and value, and it needs to land into, this is how I practice what I preach. This is how I put my mission and my values unapologetically. I stand by them, and here's how I act by them too. And that is reflected in your offers. It's reflected in what you do in your business, the people that you hire, how you treat your clients, how you run your products. Like, what is the kind of service that you are delivering once somebody gives you the money, once the dollar is in the bank? How do you uphold the mission and the values that your brand story talked about? And this is another part of that multidimensionality, is that when you are sharing your brand story, you're telling a story of who you are, what you do, why you do it. You're weaving a future. Like, with your words, you are creating reality. You are declaring, this is who I am, this is what I do, this is what I do it for. And that reality will only come to fruition when it literally becomes an action that you take. Hey, I'm going to tell the story in this webinar. I see you, I get you. Here's my story of how I've been there too. I have a solution to your problem. Here's my program. And then guess what? The brand story continues, because the program delivers on the mission. It is in alignment to the values, and the brand story continues after the sale. The brand story continues after the sale, because now it's a story of you becoming who you say you are and acting it into existence, so that people can not only feel you and show, and see what you have to show them emotionally, but they're only going to know it when they experience it for themselves, that that's what you're actually made of. One of the biggest compliments that I've gotten I just recently closed a 1.5-year container with a client, and she brought me to tears, because one of the biggest compliments she gave me was that she said, Celine, you're truly an embodiment of the work that you teach. Like, the whole time that we've been working together, I just see you practicing what you keep telling me to do. And that to me speaks more than any story that I could ever tell about my greatness in the past, or what I could have been, or what I've done, or what I think about something. Because to tell a story about who you've been is one thing, to tell a story about who you're becoming is another thing, but to tell a story as you're becoming the thing, and telling the story and then becoming it, and then showing the story and then becoming it, is evidence that you are who you say you are. And it is evidence that you stand by your brand's bigger mission and your values. So this is the step 3, is really a step of embodiment. It's about knowing yourself, knowing your audience, and then showing them who you are, what your mission is, and what your values are through the actions that you take through your business. And that's the most valuable thing you could do. It's really simple, actually. These 3 steps that I'm outlining, it's simple, but can be complex for us to get to understand. Like, the how has its own steps, and that's exactly why I can spend months, working with clients privately on this, and why I have a course that teaches this more in depth. But these 3 key principles that I'm sharing with you, these steps, are really it. It's really like it's the bread and butter of creating a compelling brand story, before any of the strategies, before any of the tactics. As I shared, a compelling brand story is not something you think your way into. It's something you create by becoming. And I cannot emphasize this enough, because there's multiple ways that you can go about this. You can do you can hire a brand strategist and do like a superficial 4-week deep dive, and come up with some kind of pretty story that sounds really good on paper and it's copywritten perfectly for you, and now you plaster it all over your website, and then somebody creates a content strategy from that. Like, sure, you can get by with a superficial brand story, but what I'm talking about here is deep, powerful, transformational brand storytelling that changes your life, changes the lives of anyone that you touch, and changes the soul of your business, and turns it into not just this thing, this machine that creates stuff that people buy, and in exchange you get money, and then you kind of keep the machine going, but rather into this soulful entity that is part of your soul expression. It's not all of you, but it is the service expression of you, or one of them if you have multiple businesses, that gets to be in its own right a tool for people to come through, receive a transformation, receive a benefit, and transform in ways that is deeper than just the product that you offer. It's deeper than a phone. It's deeper than a pair of socks. It's deeper than a really nice pair of eco yoga pants. Because when your product or service is tied to a mission, and people purchase that and they have a positive experience and they receive that, they're also receiving your story. This is how our ancestors transmitted knowledge that kept being passed on through generations for thousands and thousands of years. Because it touched someone, that person remembered it. It was memorable, and they told the story again, and it was passed on. And I believe we have that power. We have that power to do that with our businesses. And our businesses, whether you're selling lipstick or transformational services, the product or the service, when we tell a really compelling multidimensional brand story, it holds the lesson, it holds the message. The phone holds the message of creativity, innovation, you can do it, simplify, aesthetics, beauty. The socks holds the message of fun, excitement, self-care. The sweater, the eco pants hold the message of sustainability and caring for the planet and looking really beautiful while taking great care of your body. These products, these services, they hold so much more than whatever it is that we are marketing superficially. And the only way to really convey that without using so many words is through the power of a multidimensional brand story. So know that when treated from a new paradigm, when you're approaching this, not as a, oh, let me just get this done because it's something I need to check off. Like any business needs to have a brand, it needs to have a brand story. Check, check, check. Like, let me just do a quick course here just to make sure my brand story is taken care of. When it stops becoming a to do and it starts becoming a to be, your brand story is a tool for transformation for you, for your audience, for your business, and for anyone who gets to touch that. It's a really powerful tool of deep, deep, deep personal transformation. And you know what? Most people don't even know it. You don't have to sit there and do a 10-minute story in a webinar and like tell people how transformation it is and how deeply touched they're going to be by this 10-minute story and how deeply transformational, and just like emphasize like that's no. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is when you stand on a stage in your power, knowing thyself, your story, who you came from, having done that inner work, having healed the parts of you that you were insecure and fearful about, and really standing into, this is who I am, this is what I stand for, this is my why, this is my vision, these are my values. And you visualize the people in front of you, this is who they are, this is what they need from me, this is what their soul is made of. The people in this room, they have a certain collective energy, like I can feel into them. And then you speak, or rather transmit, a message from that place of alignment and embodiment. And for 10 minutes, you share your story, just a simple story, but you're doing it from a place of your mission and what you're here to give. And that deeper connection to you, to your audience, and to the bigger picture at hand, the mission. Those 10 minutes have far, 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 far more impact, far more influence, far more power, and far more transmission than if you were to just memorize a 10-minute script that you put together with some brand strategist that wrote something up for you. Same 10 minutes, completely different context. Same 10 minutes, but when embodied in your heart, speaking from soul, with these principles down pat, you're transmitting a completely different message that is so much more powerful, impactful, and influential than if you were just to memorize a script that's 10 minutes long, that doesn't have your heart in it, that is not soul led, that doesn't really take into account the bigger picture of what you're actually there delivering that story with, which is not just to sell a product one time. I hope it's not just to sell this service this one time in this one webinar or in this one stage, but it is to create a long-lasting relationship with the people who are here to be served by you, by your mission, that in return will be exchanging energy, which looks like money most of the time, that will continue to feed that mission and that return. So that long-lasting, that connection, that relationship that is across time and space is worth it. It's worth you taking the time to drop into a more connected way of expressing in alignment to your soul that is a transmission more than a share. And that is why when I work with clients and I help them to craft their brand story, what they walk away with is so much more than just a brand story. They walk away with a rewritten life story of who they really are. All those blind spots that they had of who they thought, like of thinking they were less than who they really are, of not seeing their own power, of being limited by their past conditioning, gone. It's a stepping into their power. It's understanding who they're here to do, who they're here to serve, what that bigger picture is. What's that bigger path that they're walking into? Because I can tell you from personal experience, as well as experience in my work, is that you can only get to a certain point where money is going to be the thing that you can pour all your life force into. Like, it's not, there's only a certain amount of money that you can make before you're like, oh, I'm making way more than enough. What else? There's only so many followers you can have until you're like, okay, I have all the followers, I have the engagement. What else? There's only so many accolades you can collect before you have all of them. And you're like, okay, what else is there? What else is there? That deeper inquiry. So the business can't just be around meeting a certain income, bar this year, or making a certain amount of months, or hitting a certain amount of followers, or even serving a certain amount of people, because that also can get twisted and ego driven when it stops becoming about the humans and it starts just being about hitting a certain number, certain target goals. But it's really around, in the larger context of your life, what are you building? How is this business contributing to that? And how does your brand get to change people beyond just the product or service that you're offering, way, way beyond that, so that it's long lasting, so that they remember you years from now. Even if they don't buy from you again, they still remember you. They still remember what you taught them. They still remember the story that you tell. It still lives in their heart. They still quote you years and years and years after engaging with your brand, if they haven't stayed with it all along. So it stops. It's not just about that. It's about rewriting your life. It's about transforming your emotional relationship with yourself, with your audience, with your business, and with your history, with your past. It's transmuting your past, letting go of what no longer serves you, and telling a story not just of the past, but also of what you're creating into the future. When I started my career, I was really focused on helping people tell their story of their past. And one of the evolutions that occurred in my business is that, yeah, sure, I can do that. It's a zone of excellence for me. But my zone of genius is helping people let go of the stories of their past and start to consciously co-create the story of their future in the now, of who they're being, of what they're creating in their life. Because our greatest potential doesn't live in our past story, it lives in the future. And if we keep copying and pasting, dragging our past story into our present and future, we're just going to get a replicate of our past into our future. That's how it works. But if you really let go of the past, come to peace with it, heal it, and are able to tell an important, powering story of everything that happened, everything was happening for you, and you're able to integrate that story, like really come into peace and acceptance with it, then what it does is it gives you a blank slate to start writing the epic story of you now into the future on a blank page, where you are the conscious co-creator. You're awake. You are seeing what you are writing on the page. You have the power to change it in real time. And you also get to be supported by God, by the universe, source, as you wish to call it, by a force that is greater than you, that is helping you co-write that story. It's leading your hand. It's helping your hand move along the pages so that you are creating a story now that is connected to the vision that you have for your future. And how you write that story is literally pulling that future timeline into the now through your energy, your embodiment, your alignment, and your heart and your soul, which is going to be the ultimate catnip that's going to call that future into being now. So it is worth it. It's worth going deeper. It's worth treating your brand story as multiple things, as a tool for healing, a modality for healing, which is how I see it, a marketing tool, a strategic business tool, and a tool for self-expression for yourself and others, because other people get to satisfy the desire for expression by watching you authentically express. In your authenticity, people can see that in authenticity and get lit up by it. So this is, as with anything, I don't treat business as silos. I see it as an organic part of our holistic life. And at least in my world, gone are the days where I used to cut off parts of myself in order to like I would go to business and cut off my personal life, cut off business. I can't operate that way anymore. I can't cut myself off from other parts of myself. I personally have found that my life is best lived, most joyfully lived, when everything is integrated. My business, my personality, my relationships, like it's integrated. That doesn't mean there's no boundaries. There's no clean boundaries or there's no containers, but it just means that I'm not going to the office, my virtual office, and turning off my personality, turning off who I am, what I need, my self-care, and I'm not going into my personal life and turning off my business. They're all expressions of me. And they all get to dance together in harmony. At least that's how I see it. So the last thing that I want to leave you with is that whatever decision that you make when it comes to your brand story and how you decide to craft it in your business, remember that the most powerful brand story you will ever create is the most authentic one. There are many strategies. I teach them in my programs, techniques, whatnot. But there's nothing more powerful than showing up authentically in your imperfection as well, which is one that took me a while to learn. Still learning sometimes, you know? It's about when I work with my clients and everyone comes with a different business model, different story, different brand story. But the one thing that remains consistent is my job is to empower them to be unapologetically themselves, to express who they are in their full authenticity, whether it be in their business, in their relationships, at home, wherever it is that they are. They don't need to split themselves. They don't need to cut themselves. You get to be unapologetically who you are in your authenticity. And your brand story gets to illustrate that, what that is. It gets to show people what that is, and you get to play with it. It's like this beautiful canvas, because obviously your brand story, just like your business, will never capture all that you are, especially multidimensionally. Hello, no freaking way. It can only be like a fractile of the whole. It can only be a slice of the hologram. It can only give people a taste, a view into the absolute brilliance that is you. It can help people feel, to touch your soul, to connect with your soul. And so your brand story is also something you get to play with, which is in the context of this business and in the context of this, audience, client avatar, as you wish to call it, and in the context of what I'm here to do within this business. What's the story I want to tell? What is it? What parts of me do I want to showcase? How do I bring this to life in this context? How can I bring this to life in a really beautiful way? Yeah. So, yeah. And the bigger invitation also I want to give you is, if we even were to zoom out, and it's a little edgy here, and we think about not just your brand story in the context of your business, but what is your new story of your life that you're calling into being right now? What's the new story that you're writing that is bigger than the brand story? This is what I want you to contemplate, is what is that big life story that you're writing into being right now, that you're co-creating as you transition into more authentic living? And then within that big story, what's the brand story you want to tell? But even more than that, what's the story you're creating for yourself? And if it's not the story that is lighting you up right now, how would you like to rewrite that story? What does it look like? What do you need? So, yeah, I'm feeling complete on this topic for now. And that was a lot. I know there was a lot of pieces here, but just to recap, multidimensional brand storytelling is about telling a story through your brand that reaches far, far beyond the straightforward goal of I'm going to tell a story so that people can buy this offer or service that I have. Far beyond that. You have so much more power than that. You're actually able to, the way you craft your story has the power to heal you, to empower others, and to amplify and reinforce the bigger mission that you have here on the planet. And if you're not clear on any of those things, then your first step is to get clear on them. And I promise you, there hasn't been one client that's come to me and is like, oh, I have a boring story. I don't really have a story. I pulled a story out of them. There hasn't been one single client that's like, oh yeah, I don't know what my mission is, the purpose. I don't know. I don't really think I have anything to do. And then we pull something out that gives them goosebumps all over their body. Like, it's in you. If you're listening to this episode, like, yes, it's in you. Yeah. And the 3 steps I've shared is, number 1 is to create, like, get really clear on in your personal and professional identity, who you are, your why, your vision, your values. Step number 2 is really getting an in-depth understanding of your ideal audience. And step number 3 is to embody your mission and values, to not just talk about it, but really back this up with your actions. And the step that isn't really a step is just coming into an embodiment of the brand that you say you are. Like, be who you say you are, and watch how your business and will transform, your visibility through your brand will transform, and the way you tell stories will be so much more compelling, and it will start to automatically magnetize the right kind of people towards you. And last but not least, most important thing is be your most authentic self. That is at the pinnacle of all of this. And in that authenticity, zoom out and think about, in addition, like, this is my brand story in my business, but what is that life story that I'm rewriting for myself? What is the even bigger picture of what I'm creating here? Wee-hoo! All right. So that summarizes the episode. And for those of you listening who, really are like, you gobbled this up, you loved it, you loved everything that I've talked about in terms of creating your multidimensional brand story, and you want to embark on the path to create your own multidimensional brand story, there are 2 different pathways that I can recommend for you. The first is the self-study direction. I have a self-study program that covers the A to Z of how to uncover, tell, and share your brand story. Like, this is the Bible of everything that I teach on what it looks like to create your brand story, and everything that I share in this episode of how to identify your ideal audience, your vision, your values, how to connect it to a deeper vision, how to bring it to market in a way that is connected to, and strategically connected to your business, so that you can create more income, more influence, more impact. Like, this is the step-by-step guide for this, for creating an authentic brand story that is going to grow your business as well as activate your social media. So if you're interested in that, it's really easy. CelineDaCosta.com/schoolstory. This is also going to be included in your show notes. So that is one way that you can do this at your own pace, and really start to create that powerful brand story. For those of you who are a bit more advanced in your business, like, so my school of story is for those of you who are like, I don't really have a brand story, or I'm not really sure what this brand story thing is all about. It's going to help you create that from beginning all the way to end. For those of you who are a bit more advanced, you have a business already, you have a brand, and perhaps you're looking to reach new levels of depth in your brand. You're looking to connect more. Maybe you're not really reaching the right people right now. You're feeling like you're out of alignment. You're not really fully expressing yourself the way that you like to online, and you're not sharing the story that you know that you want to share. Like, for those of you who know that you're meant to be speaking on big stages, those of you who know you're meant to be writing that best-selling book, or pitching that idea to investors, or really putting yourself out there and growing your following, and really being seen in a much bigger way, then this would be the private coaching route would be best for you. I do take a select amount of clients every few months. There's a couple of spots opening. I don't ever know when. You'd have to check my Instagram in real time, but I do take a select amount of clients, and I mentor you personally to really get you to that place where we do the whole shebang. We really go deep into what is your brand story. We do the healing work, the story healing work of the past, really cleaning up any self-imposed limitations, limiting belief systems, any ways that you're keeping yourself small are going to go right out the window in this mentorship. And we get you reconnected to your power, your gifts, what you're really here to do, what you're here to serve. And then we craft this beautiful, compelling brand story that you can share in your webinars, you can share on stage, you can literally write a book about if that's what you want to do. You can make it as short or as long as you need it to. That is going to be speaking into the hearts and souls of your ideal audience, which will also identify, and anything that gets in the way will get cleared on, a deeper subconscious reprogramming perspective. And not only that, but I also walk you through how to embed that brand story into your business so that it is supporting your business model and it's really allowing you to turn up the dials and to create that massive impact, massive influence, and massive income that you are dreaming of. So if that's something that you're interested in, there is also an application form in the show notes, so you are free to apply to work with me privately. So those are two options that you can embark on your brand story journey for those of you who this is right for. All right. I think we're good. We're done. So that is it for today's episode. And as always, if you got value out of this episode, feel free to screenshot, let us know on social media. Feel free to tag me on Instagram. I would love to see what you have to share, as well as personally thank you and share what you have to share. And not only that, but if you really, really love this episode, if you could pop onto the podcast app and give this a 5-star rating, we would so appreciate it, as it does help other people find this content and puts it out there in a bigger way. All right. Thank you so much. And I will see you in the next one. Mwah.
Thank you, beautiful humans, for tuning into today's episode of It's Not What You Think. If you loved what you received today, make sure to subscribe so that you don't miss out on future episodes, and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, as it helps us reach even more amazing listeners like you. If we aren't already connected on social media, come receive even more tips and inspiration by following me on Instagram at Celine DaCosta, or visiting my website at celinedacosta.com. After listening to this episode, I invite you to take a few moments to reflect. What stood out to you? What were your key takeaways or breakthroughs? And if there was one action step you could take from this, what would it be? Thank you again for joining me on this journey. I'm sending you so much love, and I can't wait to connect in the next episode. Until then, keep sharing your unique gifts and living out your most magical life.